Success is often painted as a straight line. There are strategies, growth charts, KPIs, and all that. But behind every product launch, every innovation, every brand story, there is a human story, listeners. The choices we make, the patterns we repeat, the blind spots we ignore. They shape not just our business outcomes, but the culture, the creativity, and ethics of our companies. Listeners, in today's episode of the BizPlan podcast with your host Sana, we are going to explore the human side of entrepreneurship, invention, and business with someone who has spent over a decade decoding exactly how humans make decisions. Listeners, Martin Lucas is a behavioral scientist, inventor of deterministic AI, a new kind of intelligence built on physics, not probability, and founder of Gap in the Matrix, where he has helped over 100 global brands understand the unseen forces driving human behavior. Listeners, Martin's work blends psychology, creativity, and AI in ways that feel incredibly human and surprisingly practical. So, over the next 30 minutes, we'll dive into his stories, his failures, his inventions, and the lessons he has learned about people, brands, and the unpredictable nature of business. So, Martin, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Uh, Martin, let's begin with understanding deterministic AI. From the very basic, from the fundamental. Like you have built this from the scratch. So when and you have been over it for almost like more than a decade. Um, and a lot of things has changed, a lot of shifts, whether it's socially or economically. We are seeing a lot of changes. So when you look at the market today, why do you think so many businesses still make decisions based on probability or gut feeling rather than deeper behavioral insight?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it comes back to the fundamental of how well you understand yourself is going to dictate how you make decisions. So when we're in businesses, it's quite easy for us to copy other people in a group, to go with group consensus as they talk about it, to copy what other businesses have done. We think bigger businesses are doing the right things, so often startups copy it. But decision making at the end of the day comes back to who am I trying to serve with that decision? Do I understand them? And do I understand myself well enough to make an informed decision? The reality, to answer your question, is most decisions are being made on basic information that's very rational, right? And rational information only tells you at best half of the actual story. So if I give you an example of like marketing personalization, right? This word personalization drives me a bit crazy. What people are doing is rational data builds, rational software that says if Sana has done X, let's serve her Y. They're not trying to understand what it is that Sana wants from X, from the product, when she wants it, why she wants it. She might not be interested in it. So, for example, if you look at a product, you'll get
Mhm.
hit with programmatic advertising, right? Which means that it assumes that because you've looked at it, that you're interested in it. And that gets a 0.0004% conversion rate because it doesn't understand you. And that's an example of how we create rational decision making in systems that just doesn't work, and it's rampant in the world.
I agree. I agree. And not even, when as a consumer, as a person, I'm looking at a product, even I'm talking about it, like I get hit by ads or videos talking about that particular thing. I
Right.
mean, that is so sometimes, I really feel creeped out.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. The creeped out feeling is common for people, right? And what's happening is businesses are even doubling down on that. You know, listening to calls, buying third party data. One of my favorite things is that brands spend often. No matter the size of the brand, they'll spend about £50,000 on customer personas to understand their customers, and often that's interviews or surveys, right? So imagine if I've got 1,000 people in my database, 10,000 people, 100,000 people. If I ask five people why they like my product, what they want from it, or if I ask 50 people, It's a tiny data set which falsifies the results, but you're also getting rational responses because nobody knows the psychological, emotional reason why they wanted a product, why they love something, right? So they're not going to be able to express it in a basic interview and survey. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like people are spending money to create creepiness and false information.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, true, true. And I think this is so obvious, because you are in that tech space,
Mm.
and it is fascinating because we often assume, like, if I can advocate for AI, that it is cold and clinical, but I think it can also reveal the human story underneath every business decision, like those hidden motivations, like leaders themselves wouldn't see that.
Yeah, 100%. So what we've done with the deterministic AI that we've built and decision science, so that's the two big inventions that I've done over the past decade, as you mentioned, just to give it the creds, worked with over 100 brands, 120 million tests, operates 76% above the industry for performance, right? So what? We've built intelligence that doesn't replace human thought, it works with it. So decision science is as much about empathy and psychology as it is about engineering, right? Is completely different in terms of like if an AI can understand the variables of what somebody wants, what they're thinking about it, it can then know how to serve them better. Versus AI in the general world is a stochastic model, it's probabilistic, it's got a hallucination setting. It's basically a text selection service, right? It's clever, it's good at it, but it doesn't understand the context of the people it's trying to serve and the problems it's trying to solve. That's what we've got past. I can run a test about understanding the human side of it if you want.
Yeah, yeah, please, please. And like, can you share a specific example of a brand, Martin, that dramatically changed its strategy once it applied the deterministic insights?
Yeah, I'll do that in 2 ways actually. So I'll give you one case study. So it was a car company. They were launching what's known in America as the soccer mom car. So
Mhm.
it's not seen positively by females. It's not seen positively by males. It's just an old term for soccer mom car. What it basically means, it's like your kind of station wagon, right? It's because you've got multiple kids and you need to, you've got a lot of sports games and a lot of events and dance classes, all that kind of stuff. It's a practical car. And the car company we were dealing with is not popular in the United States, and we didn't have any discounts or offers, right? So that's like a triple threat where it's difficult, right? What we did instead of making it about, oh, this car's electric and let's have a car driving across a big landscape, like those typical car ads, they're all like versions of the same thing, right? Either driving in the city, driving through a desert. What we did instead was look at what's the emotional factors. What's the problems that this car can solve for people? Where do people live? How do they use the car? Right? And then we created the content that went with that. So, for example, in a really simple way, this car has 7 USB ports, right? And if we're honest, sometimes as parents, we would love the kids to be quiet. USB ports means they can plug in their tablets. We get a little bit of quiet time, right? That's a big win for people considering a car. But if you think about most car advertising, it's about the car, it's about electric, as I mentioned, right? So we did that practical side, and then we looked at what do people want? Are they adventurers? Do they want safety? There's a psychology model around cars that we've built where it's second only to your bedroom, right? In terms of your own space, your own security. When you're on your own in your car, you might sing the worst singing ever, like I do, right? But it's your own space, right? So psychologically, it's your own layer, it's your own control point. Understanding that means that you can lean into what do people want from their car? What do they do? So we actually, rather than doing like hundreds of audiences, we had four core audiences. And when we launched the car, again with no discounts, they had to stop the campaign because demand for the car outstripped supply, meaning they didn't have enough cars for the demand. So it worked out in the most incredible way. And at the end of the day, we've got hundreds of those case studies and examples of from 3,000 projects because it's about understanding what does somebody want from this experience to be influenced and persuaded to want what you've got to offer them.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. And this brings me. I was seeing one. So it was on YouTube. But it was a car commercial. Not exactly commercial. It was just a video. Um, And the comments were really, really surprising, Martin. Like, it basically showed, I think it was for BMW or BMW, I think.
Right.
Uh, so the woman is driving the car. It's on a highway or a freeway. Um, and she felt like sleepy, so she like slept, but the car, it automatically like, blinked all the indicators and then went to the sideway and it stopped to prevent fatal accident. Just that particular video, no, nothing, tagline, no flashy things in the ad. It was just a video of showing how exactly the car will function during that crucial moment, when the driver passes out or is tired, feeling drowsy or sleepy. And the comments were really surprising. I mean, people were saying that's exactly how a car commercial should be. So I think that I really, really liked, how it not focuses on the ambition part. Generally, that's how I have seen car commercials working out, but it focuses more towards the emotional side.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, at the end of the day, the average human brain makes 36,000 decisions a day. 98% of those decisions are not conscious to us, right? Like how to dress, how to tie our laces, how to make a cup of coffee, etc., right? But also our prejudices, our bias, things that we like, things that we don't like. Like we're a very efficient machine. So the brain wants to run as efficiently as possible. If you look at where I started in 2015, and the same stat is still true 10.5 years later. If you combine Google Display, programmatic, and Facebook, not all of Meta, but Facebook,
Mhm.
98.81% of ads don't get engaged with. And I don't mean clicked and not bought or looked at and not clicked. I mean not engaged with at all, right? So if you look at the correlation, 98% of your decisions are unconscious, right?
Yeah.
And 98.81% of ads are not engaged with. Humans don't understand each other. And what you just nailed, so there's a direct correlation, right? Because if the ads would work, you would get more reactions, right? More engagement. What you just nailed is a fundamental thing that we've worked on for years, which is what problem do you solve, right? It sounds so simple, but what problem do you solve for people? And if you're not showing them things that interest them, the problems that they solve, right? So clothing is not just to keep you warm. You pick clothing because of your identity. You pick cars as your example. That's a safety one. That protects you. That's really good for people that have got any kind of fear, which is always a big human component, right? And there's all the way through. There's different reasons why people want things, but at the end of the day, it comes but down to one of the key questions is what problem do you solve?
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned about when you were explaining about deterministic AI, like working with 100 global brands. Um, what's the most common blind spot you have noticed in leaders when it comes to understanding their teams or customers?
I would say that the most common thing is that people use a small amount of information to make the biggest decisions in a hurry. So we're in a world where everything's running so quickly that in the past decade it's got even worse. So it's psychologically it's called your decision fatigue, right? So we make decisions quicker. There's
Yeah.
too much. We're oversaturated with information. We're oversaturated with streaming. Oversaturated with social. Oversaturated with content, and that's going to get even worse with AI generating very average type stuff, right? Not my stuff, but other AI, right? Um, and it means that what you've got is a situation where people are looking at Tableau reports and looking at dashboards and making basic decisions. So I'll give you one example, right? A lot of people in an e-commerce world will look at a report and see what the top 5 products are.
Yes.
What they're never looking at, which sounds really straightforward, right? What they're never looking at is what were added to the basket and not purchased, right? They do that in terms of like they might do a nudge or a conversion, but they're not looking at it as like what was added to the basket, what were the top products looked at but not bought, right? So they're assuming the top 5 products are the top 5 products. But when you look at it based on what was the nearlies, what almost happened, as an average billion-dollar brand, we've proven this to be worth 118 million per brand. So they can get 18% more revenue by looking at it. What is the problem that we're not solving for people that's making them hesitate to buy those products? And they could still be the same top 5, right? But generally you end up with like 15 different products that you could be looking at. The point is that everybody's looking quickly to make a decision based on what the success is, not what
Mm.
the failure point is, not how we can improve what's not working. That's the world that we're in because it's all about results, right? Like that's what decision making, that's what it is. You're in a startup, your investors want to know what the results are. You work in an enterprise business, the line managers want to know what the results are. It's all a reporting system based on small amounts of information or the incorrect information to make the biggest decisions.
Wow. Wow. Trust me, Martin, I've had my stint with e-commerce, and I don't know, like this. I worked in the front line, like dealing with sellers or resellers, brands as well. I think this is something we never discussed, or maybe it didn't come across, in the plans we used to execute while working on sellers on different projects or during festive sales and everything. That is something really really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the reason it's not going back to your question, right? Exploring how humans make decisions in businesses and stuff. There is no KPI for failure,
Yeah.
right? It's all clustered up the way that says, okay, what were our open rates? What were our conversion rates? How much did we sell? What did we sell? Nobody's looking at what didn't happen because they don't know how to, right? That's why I spent a decade working on the science of how the brain makes decisions so you could actually understand what it is you should be looking for, not just assuming there is a solution, but what amazed me in terms of like where I made the biggest mistakes, particularly in year 3 and 4 of my R&D, was I was really naive to how little the world knew about how the brain makes decisions, and therefore I was dealing with a lot of rejection, which I couldn't understand from people. Because if you go to somebody and you're talking about this is how the brain makes decisions, 98% of your decisions are unconscious. Most people don't have self awareness. Most people don't understand this. What you're actually doing is saying to the individual, you don't know how you work, right? And that was a huge lesson for me to realize that you can be ahead of your time, but if you're ahead of your time without truly understanding what your market wants and how it thinks, then you can cause your own problems. And I did that magnificently.
I agree. I agree. Yes, the proof is in there. And I think I mean, for our listeners, if I can say, I think it's scary to go against the tide, and I think that's where, Martin, your work, your research, um, it becomes critical. Like helping them see what they can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's if you're up for it, let's do a fun test, right? So I want you and the listeners just to let's just take a deep breath in and out. So just set our system, right? And I want to run a little test with you that will run us through how decision making works for you as an individual. We'll focus on you and the listeners as a consumer. You game? You good for that?
Yeah, yeah. Let's go. Let's go ahead, Martin.
Okay, cool. So I want you to think more like e-commerce as a consumer, right? So think of a brand you genuinely love, right? One that feels right to you. What's the
Mhm.
first thing that comes to mind when you think of them? Like who is it and what do you think of them?
The product, the value that it gives me. For example, I'll take the easiest category, skincare. There's one particular brand that I swear by, and there are a couple of reasons. So number one, I'll start with the journey of kind of becoming a fan of that brand. So it was a kind of gift, how I got introduced to that brand or the product. And then the next stage is how useful I found that product. Even if it's a bit costly, it may not align with my budget, but then I understood the value of that product and also the investment. Although I invested money in purchasing that product, but the time till the time that I could use that product, I kind of calculated as the years went by that, okay, if I'm investing on this product, it is also giving me, like, the time to consume. It's not like finishing, it's like not fast moving, but it is giving me that value over a long time. So I think it's good for me to invest and stick to the brand. And trust me, Martin, for 10 years I've stuck to that product. And it started as an online one, but now it has its physical stores. I still go to the physical stores and purchase it. So, like, that's how the journey has been. Like,
Wonderful, wonderful, right? So let's keep that in mind. So hopefully everybody's got their version of that, of the story that Santa told about a brand that they love, right? So the next question is what do you feel when you see or hear them? For example, like security, excitement, trust, belonging.
Trust.
Cool.
Trust.
And what kind of words or tone do they use that makes you feel that way? Like, do they have a calm tone? Are they bold, aspirational? Are they more human? Are they more like clever with their science insights, being skincare? Like, what comes to mind?
So it's calm, it's therapeutic, and it's an Indian brand, so it sticks to its roots, in terms of the ingredients it uses, the packaging as well, the appearance. It's calm and it's kind of earthy, like
Mhm.
it's kind of connecting to the culture, true culture actually. That is something I am familiar with, so that's why it evokes the emotions of trust in me.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that. And do you love everything that they sell or just certain things?
Certain things. So it's not a skincare, it's actually a holistic, like, there's body, there's makeup, but they started as skincare. And that is something, I've tried the others, verticals they have, not verticals, but the other variants they have. But the skincare one, because it worked with me. So that's why I stuck to the skincare part of it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for this. So for your listeners, let's just keep going with that exploration for yourself, right? Because Sanna's done a wonderful job of walking through her one, right? So next question, Sanna, is like describe a time when they absolutely nailed the experience, whether it was online or in store. Like what made it stand out for you?
In store. In store. So they don't have a lot of cosmetic brands or sellers. They'll have multiple people who will help you in understanding the product, but helping. They'll suggest you that, okay, you go for this, go for that. But I think there were two or three times when I visited their stores, and they have like two or three people, but they are like experts, and they'll ask you a few questions like what exactly you're looking for, and how exactly is your skin type, and all those standard questions. But they won't force anything upon you.
Right.
And I can see that from miles because I can see their body language. Sometimes you'll see in the shops or in malls or stores that if you're not purchasing what they have suggested, they'll kind of have a very demotivated body language. Okay, fine. Okay, if you don't purchase it, fine. Yeah, yeah, take that one, and they'll just move on to the next customer. But uh, this these 2 3 times the experience I've had, that they did not force the product upon me, even if the
This
uh-huh.
right. They sound absolutely fantastic. That's incredible. Right.
Yeah.
So the next thing, really important question, right? This is not about purchase. It's about engagement, story, the things that you enjoy, right? So when do you usually find yourself engaging with them, right? So it could be a weekend scroll on your phone, could be late at night, could be at work, could be on holiday. Like when would you engage with them most, do you think?
Weekend.
Okay,
Weekend.
cool. And have they ever done something that made you hesitate? Like their tone fell off, a campaign didn't land, they were just making everything about discounts or, anything that broke that kind of magic of the relationship with them.
Mhm, mhm. I think what has worked for me is that they have not overdone with their marketing. So not too many ads, not too many. Right now we are seeing all the influencer ads and stuff. But I think what they have, and I think that is something that I find kind of uh, the true driver in their growth over the 10 15 years of journey this brand has, is the loyal um, customer base they have. These customers, they have stuck with the brands, and they have actually like created a kind of community or brand advocates. So that is something that I also have been a part of, so I can understand, and that is why I appreciate, because they don't go over with the marketing and stuff. I don't see usually many ads about them.
Yeah, nice, nice. They sound like they're really unusual from my experience in the best way. If you look at all those examples, right? So when I talk about loyalty, it's how it works in the brain, the feeling of loyalty, right? So what's really deciding your loyalty with them? Is it the product? Is it the feeling? Is it the timing? Is it the way that they speak to you? All of those things?
All of those things, but most the biggest factor is the product. the value that product gives me, the problem that it solves for me. Because um, I'll be very frank, I have a very, like sometimes, because the seasons in India, they are very tricky. So, like for someone who has a bit of a dry skin, it's kind of very challenging to find a good, body lotion or a skincare product. So, with this particular brand and the products they have, I have actually found that, it really helps me, it really works for me. So that's why, that trust the product that is the reason that I've stuck with this brand. Even if there are other options available out there, could be better ones, but I would still prefer to go with this particular brand only.
Fantastic. So what we've just done is literally unpack decision science, right? And how it works within the brain. So this is what we've built over a decade with all these different brands, right? So it understands the emotional context, the language, the timing, what products mean to people. So every audience, every day gets an experience that matters to them while still respecting what the brand is. And it actually helps bubble up in the brand to understand why it's great at what it does, because too many brands are caught in just doing discount only. But my point is for you and hopefully for all the listeners is what we've just unpacked is like, well, yeah, why would I not want to be served the way that Sana described from my own personal context? We're in a world where people are just doing discounts, they're making short decisions, they haven't sold enough, so they're just going to send whatever product matters to them to sell, not what matters to Sana, not what her relationship is. Right? You see what I mean? That's the magic of decision science.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. And I also want to kind of, put a disclaimer here for the listeners that, this is something that, we could relate to, iPhone or, Apple products that, initially they don't, I mean, their marketing game was A plus, I mean, on the spot. But right now it's kind of, like if we look at it from a budget or financial perspective, I think for this particular brand, which we just did like an experiment here, once again, it did not force upon me to buy, purchase, or, consider it as a point or, a priced, priced product or a priced, possession with me. That, if you don't have an iPhone, then you are no one in the world. So that is something I really, really admire. I respect about the brand.
I think that's a fantastic example, right? So it almost feels like like we're on such an incredible same page. I want to make it clear to the listeners, we did not discuss Apple in advance, right? My example of Apple is I changed my phone last month for the first time in 6 years, right? Whereas before I was getting every new iPhone, every new iPhone, every new iPhone. Apple have become discount, slightly different colored phones, better camera. It's become engineering only. Whereas it used to be about usability and innovation and what's new and what's in it for me. What problem do you solve, right? Whereas now they've lost that nuance of what it is. So I've actually got an Android phone, which is spectacular to me. And our business runs on Google for Business, and I'm finding it 10 times easier. It's amazing to me that I hadn't changed my phone for 6 years. And now that I've switched away from Apple, that I'm enjoying it even more. So I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. There's a connection between what decisions the business is making, what innovations it's creating, and then of course what marketing they're doing. But in a world where one of my favorite ones was Puma did a semi-annual sale, and I was like, you can't even anchor it around a celebration or a Black Friday or a holiday season. You've got to come up with the name of semi-annual sale. That's how bad we've got at just doing constant discounts to people. So we're almost training every consumer in the world to expect a discount. If there's not a discount, then why would they buy? Right? It's crazy.
Easy. It is. It is. Brilliant. Brilliant. And before we wrap up, Martin, I think if there's one lesson about human behavior in business that keeps surprising you, what is it? I would love to know that.
I think the more aware we are of ourselves, the more aware we are of others and their perspective. And that is the golden ticket to everything about life, not just work, but also relationships, life itself, love, self love, all those kinds of things. If you can be more aware of what you do, what you don't do, and therefore how you're interacting with other people, be it digitally when you're trying to market your business, be it how you're leading people, be it how you're working with whomever. That's the biggest challenge in the world. And I think people are being tricked where we've got a generational change where people are talking more about therapy, more about emotional intelligence, more about awareness, but they're becoming keywords, right? Meaning people are saying it without actually exploring it and becoming more aware and more self-aware. I think it's actually getting worse, not better. So that's what I would recommend for people.
Mm, yeah, that is. I agree. I agree. Oh, brilliant, brilliant, Martin. So, if our listeners, if they would like to explore deterministic AI, they would also like to connect with you. What would be the easiest medium?
So LinkedIn, Martin Lucas, CIO at Gap in the Matrix, and they can also follow me on Medium. I just started writing from like 10.5 years of stories and journeys. I just started a couple of weeks ago, so you can find me on Medium under Martin Lucas as well.
Super. Listeners, I'll have all the details in the show notes. And oh, wow, Martin, thank you, thank you so much for unpacking. I think not just the mechanics of business success, but the human side, underneath every decision. I think um, through discussions and sometimes experiments like this, I think that really really makes it so clear for the listeners to at least start with the journey of exploring. And I think it also reminds us that entrepreneurship isn't just about the metrics or the data or the tech side. I think it's about curiosity, um, empathy, and understanding what drives people. What helps solve their problems. What keeps them awake at night. Yeah,
Wonderful, Sana. I agree.
super. So, listeners, whether you are leading a global brand, launching a startup, or exploring your own creative journey, I think the lessons from human behavior, from mistakes and experimentation, they can often be your most powerful guides. So, thank you for tuning into this episode of This Blend. And until next time, this is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.